Hello folks, welcome to the channel. It's a rather windy day today actually, but I find myself out and about on the mighty Triumph Speed Twin 1200, and the reason for that is I'm just testing a new product from Innovv. It's a smart display system. It's their N2 system, and what we're going to do is have a look at it. But before we do any of that, I think it's time to roll the intro. Welcome back. Now, the smart display market has become saturated in recent months, and there are many companies selling display units. Now, I get a fair few number of requests to review them. Generally, I end up saying no due to the amount of requests that I do actually get, and it gets a little bit monotonous doing the same type of video content. Innovv is one of the companies whose products I've been testing now for a number of years. I've reviewed many of their products, and in my opinion, they are a premium brand, and they sit near the top of the bike accessory market. They simply make a quality bit of kit. On my BMW 1250 GS is their brilliant third eye blind spot detection system. It's a fabulous safety device, and I swear by it. I'll put a link up here and down below. If you're interested in that, click on the link and go and have a look at it. Here is Innovv's recently launched N2 smart display unit. It's a 5.9-inch display, and as we all know, these display units can do Apple CarPlay and Android Auto depending on what mobile phone you have. With the N2, you can simply purchase the display unit by itself. Then as and when you want to, you can add a dash camera, either 2K or 1080 quality. You can further add a GPS sensor or tire pressure sensors as well. So with the N2, you build the system that you need, or you buy all the accessories at once. The basic price for the display unit by itself at the time of recording this video is something in the region of £180, but with my discount code GSD321, you get 10% off that, so that reduces it down to about £162. And yes, I do get a small bit of commission. Innovv have actually sent me all the accessories that they currently supply for their new N2. They're all here actually. Now we're going to have a quick look at them before I install them on my Triumph Speed Twin 1200. Rough idea on costings for all of this with my discount code. It's going to set you back something in the region of £336 at the time of recording this video. So let's have a quick look inside all of the boxes and see what we get. We've got a set of tyre pressure sensors made of plastic. They'll have a replaceable battery installed, which should last at least 12 months. You get a small spanner to secure them onto the valve stems together with locking nuts. Next up, the GPS module. The GPS module provides both speed and directional data for display on the unit and video. It's made of a hard plastic material, so if you choose not to have the module, then you don't get any data. And it has a color-coded waterproof connector which simply plugs into the display unit's GPS input cable. Then we have the dash cameras. Now you have the option to purchase either the 2K cameras or the 1080p cameras. Innovv sent me the 2K cameras, which are about £30 more than the 1080p cameras, so you have a choice. They're a different design to the 1080p cameras with a better Sony sensor and a larger aperture. So I'll be very interested to see what the video quality is like from these cameras. Innovv always package their products very nicely, very Apple-esque. The cameras come with all the necessary mounting hardware, are metal bodied and are marked F and R for front and rear installation, and again have color-coded connectors. I would always invest in a screen protector, and the one from Innovv is made of tempered glass. A must-have item in my opinion. And then we have the display unit, the N2. Screen size is 5.99 inches. It is IP67 rated for water and dust, so rain is not going to be an issue. And you can update the firmware via Wi-Fi, all very easy. You'll also get a set of comprehensive instructions telling you all that you need to know. I would suggest you read it. We'll come back to the display unit shortly. You get several options of how to mount the unit, basically a non-permanent installation with the ram style bracket and ball heads, or permanently with the universal bracket and extension column. Innovv give you various sizes of spacers to fit your handlebars. And then finally we have the fuse power supply. Again, we have a color-coded connector which is the power for the display unit. and we have positive and negative black and red cables which connect to the battery. The yellow cable will need to be connected to one of your bike's wires, which becomes live when the ignition is switched on. And finally, the display unit. It's well made from a high quality plastic. It comes with a temporary screen protector already fitted, which I will remove and replace with the optional glass screen protector. There is no on-off switch and there are no buttons. The rear has the unit's mounting point. This diamond section here on the mounting point is made of aluminium alloy. And you have a small speaker just to the right. I do like this protective rubber port cover, as there are no screws to undo and no screws to lose. It's just a simple push to fit. Under here is where the SD card is, which can take up to 256 gigabytes. And the other port is USB-C, which you can use to power the unit on a temporary basis for familiarization and to ensure it works before installation. Innovv say that this is a data interface port and make no reference to using it to power the unit, so I'll leave it at that. Here's the microphone. And then finally we have the color-coded input cables. The dash camera and GPS cables are capped, as these are for the optional accessories. Simply unscrew the caps when you need to use these cables. The power cable, the blue one, is not capped. The cable's display unit and all the accessories carry an IP67 waterproof rating, so rain won't be an issue. If you haven't got the optional accessories, then you have to manage where these unused capped cables go. But hopefully that shouldn't be too much of an issue, should it? So I'm just going to connect the cameras to the display unit and then we'll power it via the USB data port, just to make sure everything is working correctly before we then install it onto the Triumph. Now you may have to try several USB-C cables, as not all USB cables are equal and some may not power the unit. The unit powers up and you eventually get the home screen. The resolution is 1440 by 720 and the screen has a maximum brightness of 800 nits. I have to say, I like the screen. It shows direction, speed and tyre pressure. Let's have a look at the settings options. Here's the tyre pressure page. And you have a choice of several wallpapers for the home screen. There's auto dimming using the light sensor. I haven't put an SD card in yet, so it won't show anything. Then you have a choice of several languages. Not sure what happens if you're French. Here's the miles per hour or kilometers option. And then back to the home screen. Pressing the link option brings up more options. As there's no SD card, there's nothing to view. Selecting the dash camera brings up this problem. To solve this, I just have to tell the unit that we have the 2K cameras and not the 1080 cameras, and hopefully it should then work. So that's what I'll do. And the system will then reboot and then recognise the 2K cameras. It's now rebooted and yep, the cameras now work. There are further settings to access in the recording settings. And that, folks, is the Innovv N2 display, and very nice it is too. All of this is going to be fitted onto the Speed Twin. Allow yourselves a good 2 hours. It's off with the seat and tank, and this just gives better access for routing the cables and making a neat and tidy job. Then it's time to work out how best to fit the cables and scratch ahead time. Now Innovv give you two options to mount the display unit, either using the mounting bracket with the extension column, which I'm going to call the permanent installation method, or using the mounting bracket with the ball heads and ball head bracket, which I'm going to call the temporary installation method. Now I wanted the permanent installation method, but found that with the extension column you only had a certain number of positions that you could mount the display in, which for me meant the unit didn't sit level when I mounted it on the handlebars. Maybe I was doing something wrong. So I went for the temporary installation method, which gave me a level display. The bracket and ball head was mounted to the handlebars, and then it was a case of mounting the dash cameras and cable management. The front camera was mounted on top of the headlight using the 3M adhesive pads and mounts. I ensured that the surface was clean using isopropyl alcohol. and the rear camera was mounted in a similar fashion. The routing of the cables did actually take a little bit of thought, but we got there in the end. There's no snagging of any of the cables, and the handlebars do move from full left to full right without any issue. No zip ties were harmed in the making of this video, and I used quite a few to ensure that the cables were secure and that they were kept away from any direct heat source. So here's the final installation. Just remember to remove the lens protective cover, otherwise the video is going to be a little bit blurry. The cables run down the headstock and along the top frame. The red tape is where I have folded the front camera cable to then run it back to the display unit connector, rather than simply coil it up somehow. Bit of a bird's nest here. Then there's the GPS module, and finally the rear camera. The red and black power cables were connected to the battery, and the yellow switch live has been attached to Triumph's USB power feed using a posi tap. And that, folks, is the install complete on the Triumph Speed Twin. Yes, it's a retro bike, and I've tried to do a sympathetic installation as I didn't have too many panels to hide the wiring compared to a big adventure bike like my GS. I would say that the display unit as it is possibly a weak spot, as the ram style mount can be undone and the connectors undone and the unit removed by somebody else. I would simply invest in a ram pin lock arm for about £20, then it's secure. But with the zip ties between the display unit and the connectors, an opportunist thief won't be able to remove it easily. Next, I have to fit the tyre pressure sensors. Pairing the front was straightforward. Go into settings, then TPMS and pair. But the rear wouldn't pair for some reason. I got it to pair by putting the display into pairing mode first and then screwed the rear sensor onto the valve, and it then connected straight away. I then installed the SD card to enable video recording. It'll definitely be easier for those of you with long nails to insert the card. And then format the card via settings, and that's it done. Let's put the screen protector on. First take off the temporary one. I use a bit of tape. Get the wipes, clean the screen, dry it, and then apply the nice new glass screen protector carefully. CarPlay is next then. It's really easy to connect your phone to the display unit, put your phone's Wi-Fi and Bluetooth on, and then from the N2's home screen select links, and then this will tell you what you need to look for on the Bluetooth page of your mobile phone. Obviously select either CarPlay or Android Auto depending on what phone you've got. And now we have Apple CarPlay, as simple as that. It's all nice and smooth to use, and the CarPlay screen is clear and sharp, very impressive. If you press the circle on the right, that brings up some direct access buttons. Press the house symbol and that takes you back to the N2's home screen. Here we are then, out and about on the Triumph, just giving the Innovv N2 a little bit of a test ride. So first off, I'm going to say I really like the size of the screen, 5.99 inches, and I think that is the sweet spot between 5 inches and 7 inches. Not too big, not too small. Let's just call it 6 inches. Very crisp, very clear, and it certainly is bright enough on this summery kind of day. I'm not going to go too much into Apple CarPlay. I'm sure you all know how to use it. And I've got a set of Rucker gloves with the capacitance fingertips there. They're well worn, and I'm just finding that I've just got to press a little bit firmer just to get the capacitance part to work properly. But as you can see, no problems scrolling from left to right. If I then want to go back to the home screen, and I really like the home screen, it's just a case of pressing the circle on the right hand side. That brings up a few icons. Might have to press it a couple of times because these gloves are really well worn actually. There we go, brings up the icons, press the home. There is a home button I could press anyway, but there's the home screen. Really like it. GPS data for direction and speed from the GPS module which we've installed under the seat, and we've got the tyre pressure information on the right hand side, and we have a bit of a arcing speedo as well, so the information is nicely laid out,
very crisp, very clear, and very easy to read as well. So I really like that. So good job, Innovv. It's a nice quality screen. Now, in relation to the video quality, I've got the 2K cameras running at the moment, so be very interested to see the car behind me, whether we can read the number plate or the vehicle's coming towards us, how easy it is when we press the pause button, how easy it is to get the information of the number plate. So what we can do, if you want to look at the files, you have an app on your phone, the Innovv app, just download that, and then you just connect to the display unit and then download the files. I'll put an example up here. Very, very easy to use. No issues there at all. So if we want to go back to the home screen, there we go, see if we can read that registration, all the details of the car. If we want to go back to the home screen, we can actually just press that button there as well. See, with his well-worn gloves, we can actually press the button here. There we go, select that to the home screen. These gloves are really well worn. And then we can just go to the dash cam. So select the dash cam, and then you've got front and rear cameras, and then you can just scroll through. We can either go to the rear camera and have that as a mirror, so it just enhances your situational awareness, or we can scroll through for the front camera. I'd leave it on the rear camera actually. There we go, rear camera. Yeah, it's just a nice presentation. I think that's everything I'm going to cover on this test ride. It's a nice size screen, good quality, easy to read, and I know my rucker gloves, the fingertips are well worn, but it works absolutely fine, no problems at all. Anyway, let's go back to the man cave.
So my final thoughts then on the Innovv N2. First off, just a big thank you to Innovv for actually sending me the unit and all the other bits and pieces for me to review, and they did that free of charge. So thank you very much, Innovv. Now I've just got a few notes on my laptop, so I'm just going to make reference to those as we close the video. Now when it came to actually mounting the unit on the Triumph, I actually did have an issue when I used, let's call it the permanent method of fixing it to the bike. That's the one where you use the extension column. Now for whatever reason, using that extension column, I just couldn't get the display to sit level in a position that I was happy with, so I kind of canned that idea, and then I went for the non-permanent method, or the removable method, should we call it, option. That's using the 1-inch ball heads and arm. Now that actually worked really well for me, so more than happy with that. And as I mentioned in the video, just to make it a more secure means of attaching it to the bike, if you just wanted to leave it on the bike, then I would spend about that £20 or something and just purchase the pin lock security arm from Ram, and that means you just leave it on the bike. You don't have to worry about undoing the connectors and then taking it off of the bike. So that's something I would actually consider doing, but it's nothing that a few strong zip ties strategically placed couldn't solve. Although it's a removable unit, I do think that some folk may just get a little bit sick and tired of having to undo potentially the 4 connectors to remove it from the bike. But if all you want the unit for is nothing more than displaying Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, then you've only actually got to undo one connector, the power connector. So that's really not too much of an issue. Now, with the majority of dash cameras on the market that I've actually tested, I would say that the video quality of the N2 is average at best, but that would go for all the other dash cameras from all the other manufacturers that I have tested. They are no more than average at best, and that's notwithstanding the fact that on the bike you had the option to select 1080 or 2K video quality for the N2's dash cameras, but certainly enough to use it for insurance purposes or evidence for the authorities. The screen is a capacitance screen, just like a lot of the screens out there on the market at the moment. So just make sure you have a set of gloves which are compatible with the capacitance screens, i.e. they've got those little silver fingertip things. And all that I will say is, even if you have those, in my experience, sometimes you do have an element of frustration when you're tapping away on the screen and nothing happens. But generally, eventually something does happen. I was actually very impressed with the overall build quality of the N2, and in particular I did like the size of the screen, 5.99 inches, let's just call it 6 inches, and I think that is the perfect size. It's the sweet spot. 5 inches for some might be a little bit too small, 7 inches maybe actually a little bit too big, but the 6-inch screen of the N2, perfect. And I did actually like the resolution and the brightness. It was all really good, so nothing for me to complain about in relation to the quality of the screen and the overall build quality as well. Now, I did actually like the home screen with that GPS data, all very nicely presented to you, the rider, and it did actually have the feeling of a little bit of a head-up display from a fighter jet. Well, that's what I thought anyway. Now, the rear dash camera, you can use that as a rear view mirror, and I thought that was a really good part of the system, and that was something that I would use quite a bit actually. I wasn't sure whether I wanted to leave the display on the handlebars with all the cables and the front and rear dash cameras. I just wasn't sure of that, but you know what? It's been on there for a short while now, and I have to say I quite like it, so it's going to stay on my retro looking Triumph Speed Twin. Yep, I do like it, so it's going to stay on there. It's great that Innovv actually gives you the option to build up a system from just the display for CarPlay use and Android Auto use to a full dash cam system together with the tyre pressure sensors. Take your time installing it with the cable management and routing, and you won't have a problem. And you're going to get a 2-year warranty from a company that's been around since 2013. The N2 is certainly worth a look in what has become a crowded smart display market, but in my humble opinion, it does sit towards the top end of that market. Well, that's it folks. Thanks very much for watching the video. Hope it's been of some interest to yourselves if you're in the market for a smart display. As ever, ride safe, comments down below, and we'll see you again soon in the next video. Cheerio for now.